Swim, Polar Bear, Swim by Joan Stimson. Swim, Polar Bear, swim. Swim, Polar Bear, swim. Polar Star was the brightest, liveliest bear cub in the entire Arctic. He could turn somersaults almost before he could crawl. He never stopped asking questions. And at bedtime, after the first story, he always wanted another and another and another. Polar Moon found it very hard to keep up with her son, Polar Star. Sometimes she might complain. But at the end of the day, she always said the same thing. You are my most wonderful bear cub, and I am the proudest mother in the world. When spring came, Polar Moon led Polar Star down to the ocean. It's time for you to learn to swim, she told him. Polar Star dipped his paw in the water. Is it deep? Is it slippery? Is it cold? And what shall I do with my paws? He asked. Jump on my back, said Polar Moon, and I will show you. As soon as Polar Moon started to swim, Polar Star quivered with excitement. Can I try? He asked, and without waiting for an answer, he jumped in, he slid down his mother's nose, and splashed into the water. Polar Star gasped, Polar Star sputtered, and although Mom scooped him up in no time at all, he felt for sure he had swallowed the ocean. Never mind, said Polar Moon at bedtime. You are still the most wonderful bear cub. Now let's have a story and try again tomorrow. The next day, Polar Star didn't feel so brave. He clung to his mother's back until her fur hurt. And when at last he allowed himself to be lowered into the water, he flapped and fluttered. My paws keep sinking, he cried, and he hung on to his mother even tighter. You are a wonderful bear cub, yawned Polar Moon at bedtime. And I love you very much, but oh, my back hurts. Days passed and Polar Star grew more and more disappointed. He never found anything more difficult to do before in his life, and the more he worried about swimming, the more unhappy he felt when he was in the water. Mom was a little disappointed too. She wanted to help Polar Star, but didn't know how. The one night Polar Moon was so tired she spoke without thinking and said, Oh, Polar Star, I do wish you would just swim. All through the dark, Polar Star lay awake. He tried to remember the last time his mom had said she was proud of him. Do you think his mom is still proud of him? I think that Polar Star and Polar Moon must be frustrated. It is hard to do new things. But like Polar Moon has told Polar Star, I love you. I know you can do it. I am the proudest bear in the Arctic. When Polar Moon came in the next morning, Polar Star was buried under his bedclothes. "Whatever is wrong?" said Polar Moon. For a long time, Polar Star did not reply. But at last Polar Star spoke up and said, If I don't learn how to swim today, will you still love me?" He's sad. What do you think Polar Moon or Mommy Bear is going to say? Let's see. Polar Moon pulled back the covers and held her little cub. "Oh, Polar Star," she cried, "it doesn't matter if you know how to swim. It doesn't matter if you never learn how to swim. I shall love you to the end of the ocean." Polar Star bounded out of bed with somersaults. All through breakfast he asked lots of questions. And later that morning, Polar Star and Polar Moon slid into the water. At first, Polar Star held tightly to Mommy's tail. But as he remembered what she told him, he relaxed, and without thinking, he let go. "Where are you?" cried Polar Moon in a panic. She dived down to rescue him, but Polar Star was nowhere to be found. At last, Polar Moon came to the surface. "I'm over here," panted Polar Star in the distance. "And my paws, they aren't stinking," he yelled proudly. Then with a splash and a flash of silver, Polar Star gave a great whoop of delight. What is he doing? I'm swimming," he called, and his cries echoed to the end of the ocean. I love this story. It's about a mom and her cub. I thought it would be great to read this story this week since Sunday is Mother's Day. This story reminds me that sometimes moms might be frustrated because trying new things is tricky for little cubs and for moms. But this mom told her little cub, "I will always love you to the end of the ocean. Doesn't matter if you never learn how to swim. I will always love you." And that is how moms feel about their cubs or their little babies, their little ones. Sometimes trying new things is hard and sometimes we get frustrated, but moms always love their little ones, even when things are frustrating. I wanted to remind you about that and how that is one of the ways that moms are superheroes. They go through the frustrations and the disappointments, but they still love you no matter what.